Okay, hello everyone. You asked and we listened. So I finally got Mike here from Balance My Hormones to have a little chat about the service, to answer some of your questions, and just make us all a little bit more informed about the whole process. So welcome, Mike.
Thanks.
Good to have you here. We actually, it's the first time we're meeting too. We met last night for the first time, so it's kind of a new experience for both of us. He is also the first guest or interview on the channel, so congratulations for breaking boundaries.
Yeah, thanks for having me over.
So we've got a bit of a schedule that we're going to go through here, but before we start, I wanted to go through a little success story, because I think this is a positive way to start the interview, and it's just, the whole purpose and reason we do this is to help people, right? So I think it's quite motivating just to read through this. So let me read this too quickly. It says, "I am now finally on TRT and I feel like $1,000,000. The weird social anxiety I've experienced is gone and I wake up with a smile on my face. Thank you for inspiring me to get treatment." So yeah, hopefully we can convert more people into testimonials like this and help more guys out there, because there's certainly lots of men that need this. So I think without further ado, let's get stuck into it. Mike, welcome. And I guess let's start with how we met. Why don't you tell everyone how we first found each other?
Well, I first found you when I did a search on Google for TRT in the UK. So who's doing TRT in the UK? And then I came across your profile.
Exactly.
I thought, I've got to call him because, sounds similar to what I was working on at the time. So.
Yeah.
So I got in touch, and then we just had a good conversation and just didn't go from there.
It was kind of like a supply and demand, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I was frustrated because I couldn't get treatment.
Yeah.
I was struggling with the NHS, and you had a service that fitted perfectly, so it kind of made sense to go that way. So why don't you tell everyone about your background, basically a little bit of your history before you started Balance My Hormones, where your knowledge came from, and then how it led to Balance My Hormones today.
So I've been on TRT for over 20 years, and I started on TRT in the States. So I had I lived in the States, and I was 22, and just had all the symptoms of low testosterone. The little bit of fatigue, wasn't gaining a whole lot of extra lean mass in the gym, despite all my peers doing the same.
Yeah.
Not a lot of facial hair. And so and then there was an article in the magazines at the time, I think it's called Newsweek, and it showed the testosterone androderm patch.
And this was quite a while back, wasn't it?
This was back in '96.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I started reading the article. I thought, well, possibly could have low T. So I went to my doctor, GP, and I said, "Oh no, you're fine. You're young. You don't need it. It's all in your head." And so I said, "Come on, just do a blood test. Let's see." And they did a blood test, and it was on the low end of normal.
Okay.
And my dad happened to have a blood test near the same time, and he was at the high end of normal.
Okay.
How could we be in the same family and have different testosterone levels? So saw a few other doctors, and one agreed to trial me on treatment. So they put me on treatment, and the doctor said, "Oh, you'll get leaner, you'll get more muscular, all your sex issues will go away, you'll look like an Adonis." And that's not the reason why I did it. But
I'm already sold.
This is what he said. I said, "All right."
Give me some.
But he said, "Then we're going to deflate you, you'll go off the therapy, and then your body will naturally reinflate." Well, this is absolutely the wrong thing to do, because he actually shut my low production down to even a lower level after those 10, 12 weeks, and they never recovered.
Okay.
But then there weren't anything to recover to, because they're still quite low. So after going from endocrinology to endocrinologist, they all said, "Yeah, you need to be on therapy because your levels aren't recovering," after about 6 months. And that's when I found a doctor in California, Dr. Kriege, who to come out here, we'll treat you with this testosterone cream. He called it Testo Cream. And so I flew out there, and he said, "Yeah, you were low to begin with, and it's a benefit to be on TRT." And I worked with him, and he taught me about how he had other patients, young patients that were suffering from low TRT, and took me under his wing. And one of my first jobs was to sort of promote this around parts of the United States to some doctors. So it was very short-lived, but that was sort of how I started off in TRT.
And so you started in the US, and then you moved to the UK.
And then I moved to the UK in 2011, and I was working in capital equipment sales and always medical sales. I had a very big background in pharmaceuticals as well. And but in the UK I did capital equipment, and I just thought this is what I've always wanted to do, but I didn't know quite how to do it since I just moved here. Prior to moving to the UK, I was also accepted for medical school in Europe and Croatia. So my plan before moving to the UK, when I was living in Chicago, was to go to medical school and start some sort of TRT clinic.
Yeah.
But my path went a different way. I thought, well, it's a lot of money, a lot of investment. It's a long haul to go to medical school before you actually start practicing. There's no guarantee I'd be able to practice in the UK. So I thought, just come to the UK, see what happens.
Yeah.
So eventually, after the corporate world and experiences and the things that people go through, the redundancies and these things that have happened, I finally realized I need to start my own business.
Yeah.
And that's what I've done. And that's where around February of last year, I was no longer in the corporate world, trying to decide what I wanted to do. And I asked one of my mates, actually from Chicago, he said, well, what would you, if you could do anything, what would you want to do?
Yes.
I want to start this hormone clinic, this hormone. I didn't know exactly what it would be, but I want something to do with the hormones. I have a real passion for this. And that's what I set out to do. And by May, I was incorporated, and as balanced my hormones. And
I think like what most people don't realize also, I think, you know, we get a lot of guys on the channel that send us questions that they think that maybe you're a doctor, you know.
Yeah.
Like, and that's, I think, one thing to make clear is that you run a sort of a business and a service that you offer guys to help them, but you know, you work with a doctor, but you're not the actual doctor yourself.
No, so I mean, I always tell patients I'm just a medical facilitator. I'm a patient advocate. I've got a lot of experience and knowledge. If you want to talk patient to patient, what it's like, I can see what some of the other patients, their experiences are. I can relay that to the patients, so sort of help them feel at ease.
Yeah.
And that's the service, the path that I provide, in addition to sort of putting it all together to get you, you know, in front of the doctor and having your prescription sent by the pharmacy and having blood tests done in order to have a seamless, convenient service.
Yeah, well, I'm glad you brought that up, because that's the next point I want to discuss. What are the types of services you offer? Because I know, like, for guys like me and many on the channel, and I don't know about on your channel too, but we all think it's just TRT, you know, testosterone replacement therapy, but you offer a lot more than that. If people go to the website, they'll be able to see that. So tell me a bit more about that.
So the first part of when I first started the actual business, we called it EU medical tourism.
Yeah, I remember that,
and the concept of that was, you know, we can facilitate people into getting different treatments all around the EU. Particularly, we had in the Czech Republic an endocrinologist, and also plastic surgeons and infertility clinics.
Okay.
So that's how it started. But it's evolved into where the hormone side of the business in the UK is the biggest part of it and has the most demand. So I really have stopped doing most of the referrals out, and it's been very UK focused. And in those services, we can do medical treatment, or the doctor does medical treatment for gynecomastia. Mm-hmm. There's the anti-aging treatments for like human growth hormone for people who have deficiencies in those hormones. We can also do thyroid balancing hormones. The doctor does that, as well as the normal TRT, and also testosterone for women, and all the HRT treatments that go with a balanced approach for women. Because lots of times,
You mean like estrogen and that type
yeah,
of stuff?
so the estrogens, the progesterone, testosterone, all in balance through bioidentical creams, lozenges, are the most common forms of treatment.
And you, I mean, you know, these sort of anti-aging clinics, this isn't something new, you know, it's been around for quite some time, but your service does, at least from the research I've done, seem to be slightly cheaper than those people. Why is that? Is it because you're online? You know, you don't have an actual physical clinic that people go to? Is that, well, I mean, how is it that you're able to offer the service for slightly, you know, cheaper than that?
Well, we don't have a Harley Street address.
Yeah.
And we're trying to make it sustainable so people can not just try it and then go on it and then they can't afford the therapy. For the most part, we want to make it available to everyone if it can be. The overhead's a little bit lower. And I mean, on the anti-aging part of it, you know, we feel that you don't have to make a huge margin. You're just enough so that people can have access to the therapy.
Yeah.
And so it doesn't have to cost a lot. But I think some doctors aren't willing to do it without putting a big cost on top of it.
Yeah.
And it's especially for human growth hormone therapy if it's needed. So all that's needed for that sort of therapy is we need to, you know, have them fill out the quality of life assessment. They have to be the right age, the right symptoms, and we do blood tests to see whether their IGF-1 levels are. And if they are low and not age optimized and they've got symptoms, then they would qualify for that treatment.
And then what does it go to the doctor after that? And then
the doctor, yeah. So the doctor takes the lab. They've got all the file on the patient. You know, any of the notes goes to the doctor. The doctor reviews it and decides whether or not you know, they would be a good candidate for therapy.
Yeah. And what would be like the most common treatments that you do for men?
So for men, the most common one is testosterone replacement therapy.
Yeah, definitely.
You know, men that are coming in, they feel, you know, it's the typical, I've got brain fog, low libido, haven't had my morning erections at all that I can remember.
That's me a couple of years ago.
You know,
Check.
Muscle loss, the paunch is coming on, even though
Yeah.
I'm training 5 days a week.
Definitely.
So this is the most common treatment that we're treating. And a lot of men aren't being treated for it by the GP on the NHS. In fact, when I arrived in the UK, I was already on TRT, and yet I was on testosterone, anastrozole, had HCG, vitamin B complex, injectable, and yet they're like, no, we're just giving you testosterone.
You're fine, you know.
You're fine.
We've got a range, and you're safe there.
For
Yeah.
me, they're saying, no, you are. You do need testosterone replacement therapy, but we don't want you on the therapy that you're on. And in fact, I was on testosterone cypionate in the States, a small dose 3 times a week. And they go, no, we'll put you on Sustanon, 1 cc every 3 weeks. I said, you're joking. Did I go back in time? What's going on here? This is insane. They haven't done this since the 60s, and especially not in the States.
Yeah.
And so it took lots of negotiating. It's always a fight.
Yeah, exactly.
Especially with the endocrinology department.
I've had
And
first-hand
you get
experience.
so tired of the
frustrating.
fight.
Yeah.
And then I said, well, what about the estrogen blockage? I've been on anastrozole since I started TRT, essentially, because I had a spike in prolactin. Oh no, that's a cancer drug. We can't give you that.
Yeah.
Said,
It's almost like they're trying to cover their ass because of all the bureaucracy. They don't want to take any risks in case it comes back to hurt them or something.
It's a box-ticking exercise,
Exactly,
and they've got a formula in which they need to prescribe.
It's
and there's
it's
costs,
a list,
and
not a person. Yeah.
There's costs involved, and
It's
so
true.
They don't want to do it. And to be fair, even in the States, some insurance policies won't cover the anastrozole because it's all about cost, essentially. Yeah. Even though it's so relatively inexpensive when you look at the big picture and the benefit it has. You know, it costs more to have gynecomastia surgery than it does if you just treat by preventing the estrogen buildup.
So I think that's maybe a good point to segue to something along the lines of costs, because what would be the costs of a sort of the average treatment, like someone that like me that's on now, you know, like for basic testosterone replacement therapy?
There's all different. Everyone gets a bespoke approach. That's why we say balance by hormones, bespoke HRT, bespoke TRT, because you can't treat everyone the same. Some people require a smaller dose of testosterone more frequently.
Yeah.
Some a little bit larger, maybe every 7 to 10 days. It just depends what the doctor finds appropriate for them. But on average, if you're doing just testosterone, no aromatase inhibitor, because not every man needs it, probably between 60 and £100 a month. You know, without the doctor's fee and the blood testing is just for the service of our service fee and then getting the prescriptions out to you.
Yeah.
So that's what
because I'm lower than that. I mean, I think mine is about 55, 57 pounds a month.
I'm just giving
but it's close. More or less.
Just an average. So I mean.
And I think the important thing to clarify here for people is, this is a service that goes beyond the national healthcare, because this is for people who maybe want a more refined, optimized solution, or that are struggling to get treatment through the NHS, and they can come here if you go on the NHS, you can probably get it for free if they think you have a valid case. But for most of us, who have tried that and we've failed and we're frustrated and, we don't fall within this minute range that they have.
Yeah, I mean, the range is so small, it's 5, 6, 7 in some cases.
Yeah.
And most of them don't want to. And if they do, they'll just treat you with one thing, maybe a testosterone, maybe Nebido. Really, it's the Nebido is what they'll end up using.
Yeah.
And that's who wants to be at the mercy of going to their GP every 10 weeks and getting an injection, and especially 10 weeks might not be enough, and then you're not feeling good. You feel really good at the beginning, a very painful sore bum because of the big massive injection they do, and then it runs out. Like, who wants to deal with that?
But I guess that's also important, is that within the Nebido, it's kind of like, here you go, here's one shot or whatever. We have a service like yours, you can talk to the doctor, customize it, and actually go for your blood to see where the levels are. Maybe you need to add a bit more, maybe you need to drop it slightly, it's a bit more individual rather than just a check, like we said earlier, here's your prescription, now just keep quiet.
I mean, our doctor, she believes in being very flexible and fluid and very patient-centric.
Yeah.
And so she listens to what the patients want. Especially what they put on the patient intake form, especially in emails. So it's not sort of, you go to the doctor, you've got your 10-15 minutes with the GP, and then you've got to go. We offer you the doctor's email address, which you can ask questions related to your medical condition. within reason. You're not sending your emails every day, but if you've got questions about your healthcare, that's all part of the ongoing consultation, rather than just one big meeting and that's it, and then you've got to pay for it again. This is what's included in your online consultation.
And it's online. Yeah, that's like, for me that was
so.
A big
And then
thing.
you've got
like,
a record, and then you've got a record of
Yeah.
going back and forth with the doctor what you discussed, and you can look back and say, oh yeah, that's what you said I should do.
Exactly.
So, and then you've also got me as a medical facilitator to help you through the process.
I think it's important that people know that you are going through a proper doctor. Like a lot of time they think, oh no, this is just some guy, on the internet. No, it goes through a proper doctor, goes through a pharmacy to get your prescription. It's sent the normal way that you would get it if you went to a regular doctor.
But we're taking a lot of the inconvenience out for you, and we're sort of pulling the different pieces out of it, and that's why we're also able to keep the costs lower, because we're streamlining it. We're taking away all the extra things the doctor would have to do, doing all the heavy lifting for the doctor, and then presenting it in one package, so now she can review it and say yes, you're a candidate or no, you're not. And then after that you've got sort of the on-call concierge medical service by having the doctor there, having our service there to sort of kind of fill in the gap.
It's definitely very convenient. A lot of people ask me about AI's HCG. So, a couple of months ago, I wasn't too clued up about this. I have shot 1 or 2 videos since then, but maybe you can explain to people what the need is for something like an AI or HCG, how it's commonly used and in what sort of scenarios and then it gets used.
Yeah, well, when I first started on my own personal TRT journey, it was the testosterone injections, nantate, no AI. And
what is the AI, just for people?
Aromatase inhibitor. So there's an enzyme. Again, I'm not a doctor, but there's an enzyme that your body uses to convert excess testosterone into estrogen. You need some estrogen in the body. You don't need a lot, but you do need some, and it has to be the right balance. And so this enzyme's there, and it's just doing what it's supposed to do. But the more testosterone that you get, and if you have lots of this aromatase enzyme, so some men that are obese or have extra fat or a paunch, they can convert more to estrogen. And then a man that's a bit leaner, so everyone has, some people are high converters, some people aren't. So the AI, aromatase inhibitor, is a drug that stops the aromatization, stops that enzyme from converting the testosterone into the estrogen.
Okay.
And so by taking this, you sort of have your cake and eat it too, in a way, because your testosterone levels could be at the optimal range, and then also your estrogen could be a bit lower. But if you don't get the right balance, some men will complain of, oh, my estrogen crashed, but more likely than not, it's probably because estrogens are still a bit high. But you don't know unless you get tested, so you can't just guess. You hear men say, oh, I've got puffy nipples. Some of it's just water retention. It's not necessarily the estrogen. Now, the estrogen can cause water retention, but again, you have to get tested, and you stick with the program, and then you don't keep changing variables between tests. You just keep it with one test, and then you can change
slowly by time. You make slight tweaks, not these giant, crazy changes that totally change the treatment that you're on.
So, unless you start seeing overnight that you're getting lumps in your nipples, and then obviously that would be a clear sign that you have too high of estrogen.
And HCG?
HCG, some men will prefer HCG because they're worried about fertility.
Is this something you take instead of testosterone, or you take it with, or how does it work?
So for HCG, so the reason for HCG is this: it's essentially a fertility drug, and on the package leaflet you would give it for patients who are undergoing puberty that want to have development of the testes, and so this HCG is human chorionic gonadotropin. It's essentially very similar to LH and FSH, signals that your body sends to your testes, and but the body responds to similarly to the to LH. Converts your testes to make more testosterone, more sperm. So you need to keep this going.
Because don't guys take this so that they can still have children if they're on TRT or something like that?
Yeah, so the concept is if you take it, you can take it monotherapy on its own. You can take it with TRT. If you do it with TRT, you can maintain the function of your testes. So, which is really good. And you should probably also have anastrozole, because HCG can, in some men, also cause a big spike in estrogen. And so having that anastrozole low helps, because if the brain signals that there's estrogen, then it starts shutting down your own production. So by having a signal going directly to your testes and keeping the brain from signaling or feeling the estrogen signal, then you can keep the testosterone flowing from both endogenously and as well as the exogenous one you get from TRT.
And what about ball size? Because I know there's guys on the on the YouTubes that they're always commenting HCG for balls have shrunk. Because if you go on TRT, apparently it makes your balls
So-
shrink. Maybe you can just
So
touch on that.
HCG helps maintain the size and function of your testes. So
Yeah.
that, I mean, essentially, because you've got the signal, the body's saying everything's fine. Don't worry. It doesn't matter that you're taking exogenous TRT because this signal's still stimulating, and so therefore it doesn't atrophy.
Okay, is that what happens to some guys? Because
So when you're
I haven't
on
noticed it
TRT,
for myself, but other guys have said.
So
like,
there's a variation in men. Some men, if not a high estrogen converter, potentially you're not going to get you'll still get some residual LH or some more. Your size will stay without having to take HCG. Some men are bothered by the small bit of atrophy or some potential shrinkage. Some men, if they've taken massive amounts of steroids from the gym,
Exactly, yeah.
because they're maybe more potent than just testosterone, they will shrink quite small. So, by having this HCG, you're sort of stopping that from happening and keeping the cycle going, keeping the body producing, so you've got the normal size. And those who it has atrophied in, you can bring back the size and function.
Yeah. It's so nice having someone here that
But
has
I'm not
the
a doctor.
answers.
I don't. I'm just. This is from what I've read. And
Yeah, I
what
think
know
people
from
should
my
also
experience.
just
So-
be aware that, we're just having a casual conversation here between two normal people. None of us are doctors or medical professionals. So if you do have questions or information you want clarified, talk to your GP. Use this maybe as a guide and an intro to the concepts there. He does work with the doctor, obviously, but as I've said in videos before, I'm not a doctor either. So just use this as more for informational purposes. So we're going to switch to questions shortly, but before we do, we're also going to split this video into two parts. So we've handled more or less the first part now, and then we're gonna cut and do part two. And if you guys want to see the second part, then you can just go to Mike's channel. So we'll put part one on my channel, and we'll put part two on Mike's channel, just so that we've both got a bit out of this interview. And if you want to see that, then I'll leave a link in the description of this video, and he'll do the same on his channel for this first part of the video to watch it. But before we switch to the user questions, why don't you tell me just briefly what the future is for Balance My Hormones?
We're a big future ahead. Right now we're in the growth phase, and we're new to offering the service in the UK and throughout Europe. So, I could see a future where, we might have other places in other parts of Europe, other pharmacies in conjunction with it, more doctors.
Nice.
And so, but at the moment we're doing quite well with what we have and the people we're working with and the contacts. So the latest thing we're working on is new blood testing companies and partnerships with other ones. So that's a big thing. And then just making the service more efficient, and which is quite efficient as it is, but just more things in the process to streamline it a bit, and offering other maybe potentially other treatments.
Because I guess the more streamlined it is, and the easier it runs, the easier it is to help more men. I guess that's the goal.
Well, that's the point. The more people that get on board, the more people that can say this is an easy, convenient service to use, that get the treatment, the better. And because people who aren't being helped, that sort of kind of missing out. They don't know. A lot of men don't know. They don't know there's an easy way to go. And the one reason why I found there was a need for the service in the UK was, I could have gone to one of the doctors in Harley Street but I didn't know if they would treat me the way I thought I'd like to be treated, as far as, would they be willing to, use an anastrozole? Would they be willing to use HCG? Would they be more open-minded about these other therapies?
Yeah.
And it was a big gamble, because if I went there, spent £300-500 on, between the blood tests and the doctor's consultations were normally £250 to £300, £350, and then my time to go to Harley Street and my time to go to another doctor around the country, and still not being guaranteed that I'd get a prescription. Well, I thought that's a bit of a risk. So I thought, well, how can we make it different? And that's why we've got, if you don't get the doctor's diagnosis for low T, and you don't get treatment, you don't pay for the doctor's fee, and you're owing out the cost of the blood test.
Basically, create an easy, simple solution that could help a lot more guys, and not something you have to sort of go and mission around to try get. You've got it from the convenience at your home. It's easy. It's kind of more, what would you say, private.
You don't have to be in the way to the pharmacy. People can see you're getting a prescription for testosterone. A lot of men are concerned about privacy, keeping things discreet. And so that's our pharmacist ships out in discreet boxes. So it doesn't say testosterone in here. It doesn't say that.
It wouldn't bother me, but I know some guys do it.
But some people don't like that. So the future looks very bright for Balance My Hormones, and but right now we're trying to provide the best service to the patients.
Well, On that note, speaking of service, we'll do a bit more service to our viewers, and we're going to move to user questions. I did a video previously where I asked you guys for your questions, and so we're going to answer them in part 2. So thanks for watching. We'll see you in part 2. Again, you'll find a link for that in the description below. Thank you, Mike, and we'll talk again shortly. Cut.
That's
Cheers,
good.
dude. It was a bit nervous, yeah.